Hey everyone, Wyloch here, welcome back. In episode 120 we made some really cool modular Underdark themed tiles. Today we're going to spice them up a little by making some matching scatter terrain for them. We're going to collect all sorts of bits to decorate with. Here's a bunch of mushrooms. I got these from Michael's where all the fairy house supplies are. Just a few dollars a pack, so that's worth it to me compared to like sculpting or other wet work. Now we have a slick finish, so I'm worried about paint adhesion, so I temporarily hot glued these to a slab of foam board, took it outside and primed them. I used Krylon Matte Black. Stalagmites, gotta have stalagmites. Channeling DM Scotty yet again here, mix up some white PVA glue like Elmer's and some water, 50-50, and then drench some toilet paper in it. Soak it, wring it out, and boom, instant fake clay. Just kind of form it to a point with your fingers, stick it on your mat, and leave it 24 hours to dry. Come back and they should be rock hard. If they aren't, you didn't wring them out quite well enough. Seashells, again from the craft store. All these are good, but in particular I'm after these small cup-shaped ones. Extruded polystyrene, or XPS, this is 1-inch thick home insulation from Lowe's. Just use your fingers and break off some pieces to get nice rough edges and simulate boulders. Or go outside and pick up some actual real rocks. Actually, I think I'll use these instead. Pasta, specifically penne. So you collect all this stuff and more, get creative, go wild, assemble all your features, make piles of them. For the base of the scatter terrain pieces, you could use foam board. I usually do. In fact, this is exactly what I used back in episode 110 for the industrial wreckage scatter. And if you want to, cut out the base, usually a small oval, and then taper the edges like this with a fresh blade. So this right here makes a fine base, and here's an example of a test piece I made during R&D, but I felt that for these I wanted something thinner, lower profile, since they'll mostly be used on my tile set from episode 120. So instead I'm using chipboard. This is Graphics Medium chipboard, been using it on the channel for years, link in the video description below if you want to get some. This is just the grayish brownish stuff at the back of a legal pad. So I cut out a base and then just start hot gluing on different features, mix and match. The pasta cut pretty easily, and if it cracks irregularly, just try again on another one. Try and pick like 2 or 3 features per base. Don't overwhelm them. Here they are built. And then paint on some white PVA glue to the base. Careful not to get it on your features, just on the ground. And flock with pebbles and sand. I've recently learned after watching a lot of other terrain channels that having varying sized aggregate makes for a better overall look. So I'm doing some tiny pebbles here and then my usual construction sand. I recommend you just use the same color kit you did for your Underdark tile so that everything matches. So for me, started out with a black base coat for the whole thing. Then a midnight blue heavy dry brush on all the ground, rocks, and stalagmites. Followed by a lighter dry brush with a rich aqua turquoise kind of color, including some edging, nick around the perimeter of the base, and along any natural edges in your rocks and stalagmites. Then that minty, greenish blue kind of color, just select a few spots with some light nicking. And while I was at it, I base coated some of the mushrooms and the pasta with that color as well. The few that I didn't, I base coated with fuchsia. From there, I thought I would experiment with wet blending. I've never tried this before, watched a bunch of tutorials on YouTube, gave it a go, tried it out, did not go well. Kept experimenting, and the following is what I did. It's not a true wet blend, but from 12 inches away or further it looks like a perfect glowing gradient. So I got my base coated object, such as a mushroom. Took a different version of that color, in this case it's that same turquoise that I've been using. Apply some around the perimeter of the mushroom cap, and then fairly quickly before it starts to dry, go flick the brush in water to clean it out, and at the same time load it with water. Then you come back and start dabbing at the boundary, just kind of working it, dabbing, maybe a tiny amount of back and forth action. If it turns into a mess right away, then you have too much water in the brush. In that case, wring out the water on the rim of your cup before you start to do the blend. Same for the seashells, except I went in reverse. I base coated with a darker color and then blended in the brighter one outward from the heart of it. These dried really nicely. Not professional or anything, but again, from 12 inches away or further, they really look like they're glowing. And lastly, use the water product of your choice to fill in the seashells. I'm just using a cheap acrylic water kit. I don't even remember where I got it. The brand is Floracraft. So I mixed up a capful, poured it in the shell to make a pool. Don't mix in paint or ink or other colorants. It'll affect the resin curing. Instead, if you want the liquid to seem a certain color, paint that on the inside of the shell first, like I did. And we're about to go to the table to see the final product, but real quick, some reminders. If you like what you're about to see, please don't hesitate to hit that like button, subscribe, reminders, etc., etc. There is a link in the description below for my Amazon storefront. Easy, free way to support the channel if you want. Just buy your stuff through that link. And for all you 3D printers out there, Wyloch's Crafting Vids is sponsored by Heroes Horde, which has an excellent range of high-quality models, including but not limited to all True Tiles lines, which are OpenLock compatible. Also, check out my modules over on the DMs Guild, and remember, $3 patrons get free copies of all my releases. So I was getting ready to kick off Out of the Abyss, and I lost track of the days. I ran out of time to properly model Velkin Velv, but this is a crude approximation of it, and a good enough opportunity to throw down the scatter and take a look at it. Really interested in improving at blending. I think that'd be a great tool for my arsenal. Usually I go for like a wash and then highlight, but it's such a new approach, and it has such a different look in real life than doing a wash. By the way, if you like these generic mountain crag things, I have those in a previous episode. I'll put a card on the screen. One thought I had just a moment ago as I was recording this narration was it would have been nice to paint little dots on the mushroom caps. That's something I can go back and do later. And real quick, let's revisit that footage from the end of episode 120, this time focusing on the mushrooms and the scatter terrain. Again, important to use the same paints so that it kind of matches and it all jives, feels like it's part of it. I'm happy with this project. I've been happy with lots of projects, but this is the first time I can ever say that it turned out exactly how my mind's eye had pictured it. I've actually never been able to achieve that before, so very happy with this. If you liked this particular project, here's 2 more that you should go check out right now. Also, enjoy this community showcase. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell reminder icon. I am Wyloch, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.